When I finally bought my own house, after years of working and saving, my sister announced that it should belong to her family. My parents told me to cooperate, but I said no, and my sister did the unthinkable. Let me start from the beginning. I'm in my late 20s and work in operations management for a medium corporation. It isn't flashy, but it's consistent. Long hours, problem solving, and preventing things from coming apart. That's pretty much how I've spent my entire life as the one who figures it out. In my family, this led to my becoming the responsible one, which essentially meant that no one checked on me since I would be okay. My parents, Gregory and Catherine, always acted as if I was born knowing what I was doing. They assumed that if I struggled, I could manage it. Meanwhile, my little sister Chloe was treated as a precious collection. Dust her off, keep her secure, don't let her feel overwhelmed. Every move she made, no matter how dubious, was lauded as heroic, difficult, or too much for her to bear. I stopped expecting fairness years ago. Anyway, after 5 years of saving every penny for going holidays and working additional hours whenever possible, I eventually purchased a home. Nothing dramatic, simply a 2-bedroom cottage on the outskirts of town. Most people would have turned it down since it required a lot of effort, but I felt I could create something substantial out of it if I was patient. The apartment had ancient paint peeling like thin paper flooring that looked like someone had dragged metal furniture over them for a decade, and a kitchen with cabinetry so bent I could see light through the gaps. But it was mine. No roommates, no landlords, and no shared walls. For the first time, I went into a space and felt relieved, as if the years of eating inexpensive food and maintaining my own car may finally be worth something. Renovating the house became my second full-time job. I'd work a 9-hour shift, come home, change clothes, and tackle whatever problem the house threw at me. I watched the video after the tutorial until my eyes burned. Some evenings I fell asleep on the floor with tools all about me. My shoulders hurt for several weeks. Weekends were reserved for larger jobs like rebuilding the bathroom, removing old flooring, and repairing the sagging deck. My friend Marcus came by to assist with the bigger items. He's been my best buddy since high school and knows enough about my family to understand why I am the way I am. He kept joking that the house would be my evidence of survival after years of playing the supporting role in my own family. His words were not wrong. When I eventually brought my parents to see the development, they seemed proud in that low-key manner folks do when they don't want to make a big deal about anything. My father glanced around and remarked, "You were always handy, son," as if it was evident I could restore an entire house on my own. My mother smiled and thought it was lovely. Not remarkable, not astounding, simply pleasant. They intended well. I know they did. But it felt more like they were marking something off a list. If Chloe had done the same task, they would have hosted a celebration complete with decorations and speeches. Speaking of Chloe, my folks still talk about her wedding as if it were the highlight of the decade. It's been years yet they still talk about it all the time. The colors, the setting, how magnificent it was, how proud they were of their daughter. It wasn't until long later that I discovered how much they paid for it. I never received that kind of enthusiasm or support. When I mentioned that the down payment was difficult for me, my parents stated they wished they could contribute more evenly, but Chloe needed it at the moment. Like need only matters when it's hers. But the reality is, I didn't buy the house to impress anyone. I bought it because I wanted something that couldn't be taken away or changed to fit someone else's tale. Nonetheless, as I stood outside and looked at the home after accomplishing the last of the main tasks, I anticipated to feel a part of something larger. Instead, I felt stable and strong, as if I had finally created something that belonged totally to me. The thing was, I hadn't realized that the others around me didn't perceive it the same way. For me, it was a home. For my family, it was just available. And that distinction is where everything went wrong. I intended the housewarming to be small, 8 or 10 persons at most. Only my family, Marcus, and 2 coworkers assisted me in moving the heavier items. Nothing fancy. I bought a few pizzas, laid up some folding chairs because the living room furniture hadn't come yet, and planned a casual afternoon where folks could see the work I'd done. Chloe arrived 15 minutes early with 12 individuals I did not know. They swarmed through the front entrance as if it were an open event. I hardly had time to digest it before Catherine clapped her hands and stated it was wonderful that Chloe added to the family enthusiasm. I was about to say something when Gregory interrupted me with, "It's family! Stop being weird, Jason. More people means more love." It didn't feel like love. It seemed like siege warfare. Chloe walked in as if she were the host, not me. Her little son Oliver was on her hip, and she quickly let him go about the home. The guests she invited strolled around opening drawers and complimenting items that didn't require them, such as the hallway light switch. Her spouse Gavin came in last. He had the same expression he normally had, chin slightly up, eyes searching the room as if he's assessing a business venture he didn't pay for. He gave a slow nod as if he accepted the plan, which irritated me more than I expected. While everyone settled down, Chloe began making comments that sounded like jokes but did not land as such. Wow, Jason, 3 bedrooms. What exactly are you planning here? A bachelor compound? I mustered a modest smile. She continued going. It's kind of wild. One guy with all this space. What are you going to do, talk to the walls? Must be nice having no real responsibilities. A few folks cracked a joke. I did not. Gregory jumped in with his own brand of helpful commentary. Well, you do have extra space. Chloe is simply pointing out the obvious. Catherine contributed her own perspective. I always said you'd grow into something like this when you finally settle down. Maybe it'll push you to think long term. I didn't know what to say. They made it sound as if I had purchased a toy rather than a house. We began the house tour, something I had not wanted to do yet, but Chloe urged. She moved ahead of the group, opening doors as if she were inspecting property she already owned. When she entered the first bedroom, she turned to her audience and remarked, "This would be perfect for Oliver. Look at that natural light. He needs sunlight." I blinked, believing she was exaggerating. She was not. Gavin leaned against the doorframe, grinning as if everything made complete sense to him. He answered, "Yeah, I can see this fitting our needs pretty well. Our needs." He stated it as if he had already moved in. Marcus stayed at my side the entire time. He watched the incident develop with a stiff look. He was not mistaken. Chloe continued to treat each area as if she were shopping for a kid. She did not bother to supervise. Oliver was dragging a plastic toy across the wooden floor I spent 3 weekends sanding and sealing. Every scratch caused my stomach to plummet. Nobody stopped him, not even Chloe, who was too preoccupied discussing how she had arranged the furnishings in Oliver's future room. Or by the time we were in the kitchen, one of Chloe's extra visitors had opened the fridge and inquired about the availability of more beverages. I politely requested him to cease searching through my belongings. Instead of apologizing, he smiled and added, "Chloe said this place was basically family property." I stood there wondering whether I had misheard him. Chloe gave me a look that suggested I was being theatrical. "Relax, Jason. Nobody cares about a fridge. It's just family." Marcus murmured something under his breath that sounded like a threat. I considered asking him to repeat it. As the trip came to a close, I realized I hadn't said anything throughout. The entire event consisted of Chloe going ahead, pointing, assigning, redesigning, and behaving as if the home was some kind of common resource that I had selfishly locked away. People had only just eaten their pizza when Chloe clapped her hands loudly enough to cut every conversation in half. She stood in the midst of my living room as if she were preparing to give a class. I froze in the middle of a sentence. Marcus peered over from the couch, and some of the people she had brought quieted down. Chloe grinned too widely. I didn't move. I wasn't giving her the stage, but she took it anyway. "I have a plan," she said, taking a manila folder from her large purse. I took a step closer and asked, "A plan for what?" This was my housewarming, not a strategy meeting. She ignored it, opening the folder and pulling out pieces of paper she had printed. That alone annoyed me. She had come prepared, deliberate, and confident. "Since Oliver needs a yard and stability," she started off, "and since you have all this unused space, Gavin and I came up with a solution that benefits everyone." I crossed my arms and straightened my shoulders, indicating that I would not entertain whatever this was. But she did not back down. If anything, she straightened up as if expecting a claim. "You transfer the deed to us," she added as if she were requesting a cup of sugar. "It makes the most sense. A young family needs a home more than a single man does." The room fell dead silent. Gavin stepped up beside her, hands in his pockets, like he was here to negotiate the merger of 2 companies. "Your mortgage isn't crazy," he said, nodding toward me. "It's doable, and we already mapped out how we'll use the rooms." I abruptly interrupted him. "You're talking like you own the place." Gavin smirked as if I were being exaggerated. "We're being practical. You're a grown man with extra rooms, and your nephew actually needs the space." Chloe laid another sheet on the coffee table. "Here's how it works. You transfer the house to us, and then you can rent the basement apartment. We'll finish. It'll be perfect for you." Something warm crawled up the back of my neck as I heard her confident voice. I came closer, dropping, but not softening my voice. "I'm not renting anything from either of you. I bought this house and renovated every inch of it myself." Chloe brushed it aside as if it didn't matter. Yes, you worked hard, but stability for a child is more important than your pride." Then the figures were released. Chloe pointed to a page with highlighted lines. "The mortgage is around $1,300 per month." I did not respond. Gavin moved forward. "We can contribute $500. Maybe $550 when things are going well. You'd cover the rest because you make more." I laughed sharply and loudly. "You want me to give you my house and pay most of the mortgage?" Chloe asked without blinking. "It's not giving, it's helping your family. If you say no, you're choosing money over blood." This time I didn't hold back. "You don't get to guilt-trip me in my own living room." Chloe attempted to maintain eye contact, but mine didn't move. She glanced away first. Gregory cleared his throat and stepped forward, attempting to appear indifferent. "Let's just hear both sides." I stopped him off. "There aren't two sides. There's my house and they're attempting to take it." Catherine stepped in immediately, hands raised as if she were the referee. "Jason, honey, stay calm. Your sister is just trying to solve a problem. No need to get so tense." She was staring at me. "She made up a problem and her solution is stealing my home." Marcus rose from the couch, arms folded. Gavin snorted and puffed up. "This isn't a negotiation. This is theft with extra steps. You don't understand how housing law works. I read that if you have extra rooms and refuse to assist family members, a court can." Marcus chuckled sharply and without amusement. "That's not a law. That's something you saw online." Gavin's eyes widened, as if he had been caught cheating on an exam. "It's a thing courts look at. Neglect." "Stop," I spat out. "Don't pretend you know anything about law. You downloaded one PDF, and now you think you're a judge." Chloe's expression got cocky. "So you hate your nephew. That's what this is. You'd rather have him grow up in an apartment without a yard than support us. You are heartless." And I moved closer, looming above her. "Do not use your child as a shield. This is about you desiring something I've earned." The room was silent for a moment. Everyone was waiting to see what I'd do next. Chloe looked around as if she expected someone to back her up. Nobody did. Not even the weird guest she brought in. I pointed to the door. "All of you get out now." Chloe gasped like I had smacked her. "You're kicking out your own family." "Yes" was my response before you try stealing anything else. Gavin grumbled something under his breath, but did not dispute. Gregory appeared astonished. Catherine covered her lips, but I didn't mind. Marcus stepped beside me like a wall. I opened the door wider, and one by one they departed. That's when the house stopped feeling safe, and this was merely the beginning. My phone lit up the morning after I kicked everyone out before I even got out of bed. At first, I assumed it was Marcus checking in. No, that was Chloe. A wall of text dominated the screen. Paragraphs, voice notes, screenshots of stuff I never said, and lengthy guilt trips written as if she were auditioning for a theatrical speech. She didn't even attempt to conceal the insults. "You're not a real man if you can't help your own family. You only care about money. You're cold and selfish. Oliver deserves better than an uncle like you." She alternated between threatening me sobbing digitally with sad emoticons and lecturing me on what it takes to be a brother. There was no pause between texts, only non-stop alerts. Then Gavin started. His tone was not hostile. It seemed condescending, as if he believed my reaction last night was only a little setback. "Let us know when you're ready to have a mature conversation. We can work out the rent terms when you calm down. I'll start looking at contractors for the basement. Don't worry, I'll pick affordable ones." He texted as if he were the owner. I banned his phone number. He located another one and texted me from there. He also gave me a list of proposed modifications that he wanted me to do before they moved in. I did not react to either of them. By lunchtime, Chloe had shifted strategy and made the battle public. She wrote on social media that I booted out a woman and her infant in front of witnesses and that I value empty rooms more than family. People who were unaware of the circumstances commented with love and "Stay strong, mama" under her messages. She even shared a few images from inside my home. In the comments, several of the individuals she brought tagged themselves in each other as if it were a typical gathering rather than an ambush. I wasn't shocked when she twisted it. I was amazed by how quickly people believed her. Gregory called it about 3. I expected him to start with something logical, noting how ridiculous the previous night had been. Instead, he sighed as if I had caused it all. "Jason, can't you just apologize and talk to your sister? She's hurting." "She's not hurting," I corrected him. "She's angry because she didn't get her way." He brushed it off. "You know how emotional she gets. Don't escalate it." Catherine then called. I sent both of them screenshots. Proof. Actual texts and voice messages in which Chloe called me heartless, and Gavin pretended to have already moved in. Catherine continued to minimize it. Gregory interrupted with, "You're being arrogant, son. You're always stuck in your ways. Just be the bigger person." I nearly laughed. She attempted to take my house. How am I the problem? Neither of them responded. Marcus paid a visit that night. I showed him each message. He did not sugarcoat anything. "This is harassment," he stated. "You need to document everything, including screenshots and timestamps, and upgrade your security. People like this don't stop just because they're embarrassed." There's something in Chloe's tone that felt unstable, as if she'd convinced herself she was owed something. So I installed exterior cameras the following morning. Doorbell cam, backyard cam, new locks, motion lights, nothing fancy but enough to help me sleep better. I stopped opening the door until I had checked the camera first. They recorded to the cloud, which made me feel a little safer. But the majority of what they captured at night was shape and motion rather than clean faces. When Gregory and Catherine learned about the cameras, they acted as if I had bought attack dogs. "You're escalating," Gregory stated. "You're treating your sister like a criminal." Catherine added, "This is unnecessary." "No, I said this is protection." They refused to accept that. Family gatherings changed quickly. I stopped going, and relatives who only knew Chloe's version began acting as if I had committed a crime. I received texts from cousins repeating her lines. "Family members should not fight over a house. You could have handled it differently. She just wants stability for her child." No one seemed to care that the stability she desired was the result of years of work I had done alone. Even worse, word spread that I exploded at the party, as if raising my voice in response to someone demanding ownership of my home was an unreasonable reaction. Gavin claimed I threatened him, which never happened. I did not threaten to hurt him. I did not make any violent promises as he had told people. I shut him down and told him to leave. That is it. By the end of the week, it felt like half of my family had transformed into Chloe's echo chamber. Marcus remained consistent, though. Every day he reminded me to avoid emoji-filled traps and manipulative messages. He advised me to save everything and maintain a calm exterior. "People like them use chaos as leverage," he explained. "Do not give them more." I tried, but each day felt like a new level of disrespect, an accusation, or an attempt to make me feel guilty for not handing over something I built myself. I already had a work trip scheduled for the following week. It should have been a straightforward 2-day conference out of state. Instead, I left with a heavy tension in my chest. As I locked the door behind me, the morning I left, I looked back at my house. For the first time since purchasing it, I did not feel excited or proud when I looked at it. I felt uneasy. Something was approaching and I could feel it. I was halfway through the second day of my business trip when my phone rang with an unknown number. Normally, I ignore them, but something told me to pick up. A calm voice introduced himself as a member of the fire department in my hometown. He gave my address and then said the words I never expected to hear. "There's been a fire at your property." Everything around me vanished for a split second. My laptop screen, the conference room, and the notebook in front of me were gone. My first instinct was not even fear. It was disbelief. I inquired whether they had the wrong address. They did not. I grabbed my bag, informed my supervisor that I had an emergency, and got into my car. The drive back was a blur. I don't even remember the roads. Only the pressure in my chest increased as I got closer to home. Marcus called because one of my neighbors had his phone number after helping me with the deck. "They're saying your place is on fire," he told me. "I'm heading over right now." When I finally arrived at my street, I noticed the flashing lights first. Fire trucks, police cars, a few neighbors standing outside in their jackets, and then I noticed it. My house, or what remained of it. The right side was completely blackened. The windows had been blown out. Smoke was still coming from the roof. My stomach dropped so hard that I felt lightheaded. What hit harder was seeing Gregory and Catherine standing with two officers talking quickly and waving their hands as if they were defending someone. Catherine approached me before I could say anything. "Jason, honey, don't panic. These things happen. These things," I inquired. My voice sounded sharper than I intended. Gregory stepped in quickly. "My house is destroyed. We don't know what caused it yet, so don't go accusing anybody. Fires start accidentally all the time." I had not accused anyone. They were saying it before I had even processed the scene. One of the firefighter investigators approached me. He introduced himself, asked if I was the owner, and began walking me through what they had seen thus far. His tone was professional but firm. They deemed the fire suspicious. The point of origin appeared to be intentional. There were signs that someone had been near the side entrance recently. When they inquired about cameras, I pulled up the clips. The footage showed a figure cutting across the yard's edge toward the side entrance, hood up and head down. Nothing you could positively identify from a grainy nighttime video. The feed then dropped as if the power or router had been disrupted. A few minutes later, the fire started. Then Catherine said, "Remember, our daughter lives nearby. She would never do anything like this." The investigator looked perplexed. "Ma'am, we didn't mention any suspects." That said it all. The police wanted to speak with me. They led me to the back of a cruiser which was quieter. They inquired about conflicts, recent threats, and anyone who may have a motive. I opened my phone to show them everything. Chloe's lengthy messages, Gavin's smug texts, public posts, and even the housewarming chaos. "That's a lot," the officer stated. "I know. Do you have the names of the people who were at the housewarming?" "Not all," I informed them. "She brought strangers, but she posted about it and they tagged themselves in the comments. I screenshotted it all. They photographed my phone screen, asked follow-up questions, and carefully documented everything." As I walked back toward the curb, I noticed Chloe standing a few feet away, arms crossed and eyes red as if she had been crying. She was not being questioned. She was not upset by the fire. She seemed upset that I was giving the police information. When she saw me, she immediately went into performance mode. "I can't believe you're letting them think I had anything to do with this," she said, her voice trembling. "I'm your sister. I'm your mother. Why would I ever hurt you? I didn't say she did anything. I did not imply it, but she responded as if she had already been accused." Gavin stood beside her, trying to appear composed. "You need to be careful what you're saying to officers," said the man. "You're emotional. You don't want to create a false version of events." He was staring at me. I told them the truth. He gulped hard. "Just don't let anger cloud your judgment," said a guy who had attempted to claim my house 2 weeks before. Marcus finally arrived and went right to my side. "You good?" he inquired quietly. "No," I replied. "Not even close." He remained there, a steady presence, while Gregory and Catherine hovered on the opposite side of the yard. I overheard Gregory tell an officer my daughter would never do this. "She's a caring person. Whoever told you otherwise is exaggerating." The officer responded, "Sir, we're gathering facts. We haven't been told anything specific." Catherine kept looking at me as if I was the one who started the fire by cooperating. When another investigator approached me with clarifying questions, Gregory stepped forward like a defense lawyer. "Do you need to keep asking him questions? He is upset. Consider saving it for later." I said, "Dad, let them do their job." Catherine looked at me as if I had betrayed her. The questioning continued. More evidence was collected. More officers were walking around the property. Every few minutes, someone would ask me another question about the timeline or motive. Each time, Chloe and Gavin became more tense. Eventually, one officer approached me and spoke quietly. "I'm not saying anything officially yet, but the pattern of damage and the timing lines up with someone who knew you weren't home." My teeth were grinding. I didn't say anything. When I looked back at my parents, they were huddled around Chloe as if they were comforting the victim herself. It was obvious by the time the firefighters had cleared the scene and secured the area, the evidence pointed to Chloe, and my parents were not simply refusing to see it. They were already planning their defense. The investigation proceeded faster than anyone expected. A week after the fire, the police called me early in the morning and asked me to come inside. I sat in a small room alongside an investigator and a detective. Both of them appeared serious yet calm. They laid out their findings. There were traces of accelerant near the back entrance, shoe prints that matched the brand worn. My cloud footage captured a hooded figure moving toward the side entrance before the feed dropped. A neighbor's camera caught her car near my street while she claimed to be at home and the history of threats prior to the fire. When they said we're issuing charges, my chest tightened. Not satisfaction or fear, but the weight of everything becoming real. Chloe was arrested later in the afternoon. I did not receive any news from the police. I heard it from Gregory, who called me in a panic, breathing heavily as if someone had died. "Jason, what did you do?" he demanded. "They came to her house and took her away in handcuffs. She's married. She has a child. I didn't do anything. I told them they arrested her based on evidence." "You could have stopped it," he said. "You should have told them this was a misunderstanding. Families don't destroy each other like this." My jaw clenched. "She burned my house down." Catherine cut into the line, crying loudly. "She made a mistake. She wasn't thinking clearly. She's under stress. You know how fragile she is. She has a baby. How could you let this happen to her? How could she do this to me?" I replied. Catherine sobbed harder. "You can still fix it. You can retract your statements. Tell them you exaggerated. Clarify the timelines. Say you're unsure. Anything. Just help your sister before her whole life is ruined." I almost laughed at the absurdity. "I told the truth. I'm not lying for anyone." Gregory's voice dropped cold and sharp. "You are ruining this family." "No," I said. "Chloe did that." He hung up. 2 hours later, Gavin posted on social media claiming she was unjustly targeted and betrayed by her own brother, who hates mothers and doesn't understand family loyalty. His followers ate it up. He painted her as a victim of a cruel system and an even crueler sibling. Then Gavin messaged me from a new number trying to sound tough. "You crossed the line, man. Fix this. Drop everything, or things are going to get bad." I ignored it. He sent another. "I mean it. Don't underestimate me." Still ignored. That evening, I stepped out of my car in my driveway, or what was left of it, when I heard someone walk up behind me fast. I turned just in time to see Gavin rushing toward me with his jaw clenched and fists balled. "You think you're some kind of hero?" he snapped. "You think you're going to win? You're nothing without family. Nothing." Before he could grab me, I shoved him backward. He stumbled but came right back swinging sloppily. I sidestepped, grabbed his arm, and pinned him against the hood of his own car. He struggled, but he wasn't strong. He fought like a man who thought bluster was enough. "You want to try that again?" I said through my teeth. Marcus pulled into the driveway right then and saw the whole thing. He got out ready if needed, but he didn't have to lift a finger. I had Gavin completely locked. "Get him off your property and call the cops," Marcus said. Gavin tried one more weak shove, so I released him with a hard push that sent him stumbling several feet back. He tripped, caught himself, then pointed at me with a shaking hand. "You'll regret this," he hissed. "You're destroying our family." "Your family destroyed itself," I said. "Now get off my property." He scurried to his car and peeled out like a teenager who just lost a fight he started. Marcus walked over. "You okay?" "I'm fine." I said he won't be back. "You know he tried to put on a tough guy act, right?" Marcus said. "You barely touched him. Guy fights like a wet sock." For the first time in weeks, I almost cracked a smile. The next few days were worse with Gregory and Catherine. They stopped pretending to be neutral. Every call was another attempt to twist my arm. "Just tell the court you misunderstood. Think about Oliver. He needs his mother. Why are you doing this? Why are you being cruel?" Each time I gave the same answer. "I'm not lying." Catherine cried every call. Gregory yelled every call. Both blamed me for everything. But Marcus stayed steady through all of it. "You're not doing this to her," he kept reminding me. "She did it to herself. She's responsible for her choices. You're just telling the truth." That's what kept me grounded. Facts do not change just because people cry about them. As the case progressed, my parents became colder. Shorter texts, calls, and accusations. It wasn't long before the tone changed from begging to resentment, like they despised me for not sacrificing myself in the way they expected. One night, after receiving another message from Catherine calling me heartless, I finally realized something that should have been obvious long ago. I was not losing a sister, I was also losing my parents. The court was not quick, it was not satisfying, it was nothing like people imagined. It was paperwork, waiting rooms, phone calls, meetings with attorneys, and brief hearings in which everything felt heavier than the time allotted to discuss it. However, the case progressed, and the truth eventually surrounded Chloe from all sides. The plea agreement was reached in the middle of the summer. Because the house was unoccupied and she had no prior record, the charge she pled guilty to was not the maximum they could have imposed. The prosecutor proposed a deal that guaranteed restitution while keeping the case out of trial. The judge suspended jail time on the condition that she pay, comply, and stay clean, and warned her on the record that a single violation would result in a sentence. She took it. There was no dramatic speech, no final attempt to deny anything, and no major emotional breakdown, just a quiet admission to the charges because the evidence was too clear to fight. Guilty. Her sentence included probation, mandatory counseling, community service, and something more important, court-ordered restitution. She owed tens of thousands in damages. It wasn't a random number. It was related to the fire investigation insurance assessment and the cost of the damage she caused. The restitution was structured as a long-term payment plan that she could not avoid. Wage garnishment, tax return seizure, and financial restrictions. It was the only time the court seemed to recognize what I had lost. In addition, insurance compensated me fairly. They covered temporary housing, personal property losses, structural rebuilding estimates, debris removal, and a portion of the replacement cost for items purchased during renovations. They did not hand me one large check. The initial funding covered temporary housing and immediate losses. The larger portion came down to a choice: rebuild and claim full replacement value, or reach a final settlement and walk away. It was difficult to get through the paperwork, and I argued with an adjuster several times, but the payout arrived enough to recover but not enough to forget. The house's remains were inspected, photographed, documented, and then cleared. After the insurance settlement was finalized, and it was clear that I was not going to rebuild on that lot, I sold the land to a small development company and let them deal with whatever happened next. I did not want to step foot on that property again. Meanwhile, child services became involved through the court system. Any parent who commits arson, particularly against their family, is flagged. They assessed Oliver's living situation, scheduled supervised visits, and required parental classes. It was a mess, and none of it was my fault. But in my parents' eyes, it was still all about me. Gregory and Catherine stood outside the courthouse on the day Chloe was sentenced, waiting for me. Catherine had tears running down her cheeks. Gregory appeared to have aged 7 years. Neither of them looked at me in the same way a parent would look at a son, but rather as someone who had ruined their carefully arranged world. Catherine was the first to step forward. "Jason, enough is enough," she said, her voice shaking. "She's had her punishment. Please stop now. Stop what I requested. I'm done. The court handled it. You didn't have to push it this far. She's married. She has a child. He needs stability." I looked at her, astounded that she could say that with a straight face. He needed stability before she set my house on fire. Catherine flinched as if I had slapped her. Gregory stepped in. "You got your compensation. You got your payout. You're starting over anyway. Just drop the hostility. Let her rebuild. You think compensation fixes everything? I wondered. You think money replaces the place I spent months rebuilding, or the feeling of being hunted in my own family?" "You're being cruel," she said softly. "No," I said, "I'm being honest. Something you two haven't been with me in a long time." Their expressions hardened, not because they disagreed, but because they were finally hearing something they had never wanted acknowledged. It did not end there. They tried one more angle. "Do it for Oliver," Catherine implored. "He needs his family." "He has family," I corrected. "Just not me." That was all. No yelling, no lengthy speech, just the absolute truth. I walked away as they remained frozen on the courthouse steps. That night, I blocked Chloe, Gavin, and eventually Gregory and Catherine. It wasn't vengeance. It wasn't rage. It was about survival. You can't have people in your life who will watch your house burn and then blame you for the smoke. The final part of the insurance settlement was processed 3 months after the court case was closed. I had enough to rebuild or relocate. I chose neither of those old paths. Instead, I accepted a job offer from a branch of my company located 2 states away. Better pay weather and distance. I packed the little I had left. The fire destroyed most of my belongings, so I moved into a clean, quiet apartment with new walls that did not carry old echoes. Marcus clapped my back as we finished unloading the last box. Feels like the first normal chapter you've had in a long time, he told me. He was correct. There was no celebration, no victory lap, no dramatic rebirth, just silence. The kind of quiet a man notices after years of tolerating noise. I found my rhythm again. Work, sleep, and small routines centered on my life and no one else's. The first time I cooked in the new kitchen, I didn't consider who might knock on my door or demand something from me. Months later, sitting on my new couch, I recalled something that had stayed with me my entire life. My family always labeled me as strong. People believe that is praise. It is not. Being the strong one was just an excuse to take from me, assuming I'd never break, complain, or require anything in return. I'm no longer their strong one. I am just a man living in peace far away from those who mistook my stability for something they could exploit.